Hello and welcome to NewsClick. Today we have with us Professor Bernardine Dohrn, and who has been in the news in the last year or a couple of years on the issue of Obama consorting with quote-unquote terrorists.
Indeed.
How did it feel to be identified after so many years of being a professor, having lived a normal life, suddenly as a terrorist?
I have to say the whole experience has been surreal. And, like watching a film where a caricature has been constructed and then starts to wear clothes and starts to walk through town and grows old, and then it has a whole life that has nothing to do with reality. It's built on a complete lie, and yet is the go-to person when somebody wants, a terrorist. It's been a very strange experience. Of course, we've been radicals. We have been professors and organizers and activists and grandparents and so on, ordinary and not ordinary, that whole period of time. But since being at the eye of the sensationalism around the election campaign was very strange indeed.
Must have been also very unpleasant.
It's unpleasant because, as you know, U.S. society has increasingly been polarized in the last 3 years, very quickly, really. Not unlike Europe, I guess, in many ways, but a hard right emerging, an armed, new hard right emerging with massive control of media and an instant 24-hour news of its own. And so the ability to kind of feed, seize on a soundbite sentence, palling around with terrorists, for example, and then repeat it endlessly is very strange and very odd. And it generates, thousands of death threats every day in its wake, and hate mail and craziness.
But do you think that there is also underlying this, the issue that the American establishment in that sense has never really forgiven you for the fact that you stood up against the American establishment and dismissed it?
The fact that we never apologize, the fact that we are radicals today, the fact that we, think that the real terrorist is the American government, state terrorism unleashed against the world, biggest military complex ever imagined. I think that is part of it, yes. I do think that's part of it, and I think coming from the, white middle of America heartland is another part of it, So the idea that we can, your own children, your own grandparents now could be the enemy. There's a lot of craziness involved in this. The search for the enemy, who to blame for the economic collapse. Of course, mainly we're blaming immigrants, mainly we're blaming Muslims wherever we can find them. But I think that there's something about having,
The fact that you didn't renounce the past and quote-unquote turn over a new right-wing leaf, which some of the others have done and therefore are quote-unquote more acceptable.
Yes, I think that we have a deep desire in American culture, Puritan desire, for self-humiliation and apology and renunciation of what you just were. I don't know all of its roots, but I think it's tied up with Puritan origins. But it is enacted, as you can always see, with every politician and even every Wall Street leader, with their ridiculous apologies, or right-wing senators, caught en flagrante with whoever they are having sex with that day, and these ridiculous kinds of self-humiliating notions. Of course, we are critical of our own past, and I think we've been very public always about our past. And but the bigger things of what we tried to stand up for and who we were then and now, why would we renounce them? Of course, we could be smarter, better.
The critique of the system still stayed in that sense. What you did, you might have been critical of, but the fact that you're critical of the system that you opposed, that still stays, and that's perhaps also one of the reasons that it will never be acceptable to a whole bunch of people out there.
Yeah, I think that the things that we tried to grasp by the throat in the 60s and the 70s was the living in the heart of empire and what kind of obligation that gave us really to the third world, in particular to the countries trying to free themselves from imperialism and military occupation. And we also, I think, had a grasp, a pretty good grasp as it turns out, about the role of racism and slavery and white supremacy in American life, how deeply entwined it is with the issues of class and gender and struggle, and really inextricably tied with those issues, so they're not lined up separately. And I think we had a good idea of those two things. We were a little wrong about a lot of things, including the immediate possibility of revolution in the United States. But we wanted to be on that side, and we felt really strongly that trying to, open a front, as we thought of it, inside the heartland, inside the belly of the beast, and show that you could not be caught, that you could take them by surprise, that you could still have a public voice. We thought we'd do it.